It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
The thing that got me is, I love that woman. I've been married 27 years, but I've lost my cool. I've said things I shouldn't say. My daughter broke up with him, and within a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, she had an interaction with a date. She said, "Call me a bitch," and she was like, I've been with one boy my whole life.
I said, he's never called you. And she's like, never.
That was the Goncalves family talking about a situation where Kaylee Goncalves had a date with a boy who disrespected her. And they go on to talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk about more of that conversation and much more here in a few minutes. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that notification bell. That way you get notified of all of our content. Today, we're talking about the evidence that was released, or the documents that were released, and how they tie into a possible connection to the victims between Bryan Kohberger, Kaylee Goncalves, and Maddie Mogen, and also Xana Kernodle. Well, first we start, I want to talk about something that's important to me. It's our channel partnership with Dataseal. If you're interested in protecting your privacy, making sure that your information, like your name, address, phone number, religious preference, voting preference, isn't something that can be easily found on the web, go check out Dataseal. They scrub your information so that you don't become a victim of stalking or other things. Link is in the description. Get a 5% discount when you use it. So check that out, Dataseal. Now, so that first clip that we just that was shown was the Goncalves family talking about the a date that their daughter Kaylee Goncalves went on while they were broken up, while she was broken up with Jack. Now, it's put some times into consideration here. If, according to them, they'd only been broken up for about 3 weeks. So a week after that, we're looking at somewhere around 10 to 12 days prior to the incident happening, if they had been broken up for about 3 weeks. Isn't that around the amount of time that Bryan Kohberger, they said in the last time frame that he was seen in and around that area, the last 12 days. Now, the connection, and we're going to talk about the connection. We're going to talk about a theory of mine as well. Let's go into it. So what I'm going to share here is the documents that were released. Let's start off with 458. Now, sorry, wrong button. Now, last night we did a live. We went through a majority of this. This is 769 pages. A lot of it is the same stuff over and over again, just changing whether it's the victim or perhaps one different account, but the majority of the stuff is the same. So this says here, this is the matter of application search warrant for Match Group LLC Tinder records. And so this basically is just showing that they're going for some records here for Tinder. Now, on page 464 or 463, here's where it kind of starts. It talks about that they on 11/29 they obtained a search warrant for Tinder. 12/5 is when they got the email and the requested information. And what did they have, or what are they looking for, is Kaylee Goncalves' Tinder account. Now, it was based on the family. They had been together for about 5 to 6 years, Kaylee and Jack Core. So, in my opinion, this is probably a newer account. This isn't something that she was doing earlier. This was their breakup. They'd been broken up for 3 weeks. She went on a date relatively soon after the breakup with somebody who disrespected her. Did she meet that person on Tinder? All right. Now, let's see, 468. Yeah, right here. 40. This is where it shows Kaylee's phone number or the last four, 4818. This is going to be important in a little bit. And it says here generated. They wanted to know that of the profiles or any information that was generated between January 1st, 2021 and the present time that they were filing for this warrant. right? And so the next person that's on here he goes all the way down to 477. This is where it starts talking about it's going to have a lot of the same stuff over and over again. And so on this one says on 12/6, I obtained the search warrant. I received the warrant. And this one's for number 1224. Now, I already know because we'll go through it here in a minute, but those last 4 digits are Maddie Mogen's phone number. I think it even says her name here somewhere. Let me see. I think it's on page 481. Yes, right here. The Tinder account for Madison Maddie Mogen with the following identifiers 1224. All right. The next piece of information comes up at 490, which this is another set of documents to get an application for Tinder. However, this one is super redacted when we get there. So this one wasn't requested until December 22nd. This is when we said I obtained a search warrant. The warrant was served on the 22nd. So this is well after the 25th, of November, well after the, oh man, I'm not even sharing this. My bad, guys. Well after when they were kind of on to Bryan Kohberger. Remember on the 25th is when WSU Police Department located the white Elantra at his, at his residence. And so right here, it says match group. This is for Tinder. Description property. This is highly redacted on the second page. So there's a lot of information here. And then it says unique identifiers. And this does not clarify who it is or phone number or any of those things like the other ones. And given the fact that this one wasn't requested and or received until, much later, the 22nd of December, this leads me to believe that this is possibly Bryan Kohberger's Tinder account. So we saw that Kaylee went on a date with somebody who disrespected her, right? And they disrespected her. Bryan Kohberger's been known to be a guy that disrespects. How did she meet this guy? Possibly online, possibly on a date here. There's been a lot of information that's come forward that there was a lot of that there was pictures of at least one girl. It's been rumored that person is Maddie Mogen, Maddie. But Maddie was also on Tinder, maybe perhaps, and I have a theory on that, and we'll go through it. Let's go all the way to the first part, which is page 57, and this is where they're talking about Apple, right? They're talking about Apple phones. They're talking about the cell phones of the victims. Go to page. So this is gonna, like I said, this is gonna be a lot of the same information over and over again. It's why they want it sealed. Orders for it to be unsealed, orders for it to be received. So, from page 57 when they talk about it to page 67 when it finally gets to, there's 10 pages there when it finally gets to what they're talking about. And so November 21st, I obtained a search warrant for Apple. November 23rd, I received an email from Apple which contained the requested information. And that information is 1224 IME. This is a cell phone that they were trying to get the warrants for all the information of in. 1224 is Maddie Mogen, 1224. This is where it says right here. It says Apple iCloud accounts associated with Madison Maddie Mogen with the following identifiers, has a phone number, and the last 4 is 1224, right? And they wanted it from August 1st, 2022 to November 18th, 2022. And what they were looking for was all records or other information regarding the identification of the account to include full name, physical address, telephone numbers, identifying numbers, all records regarding the device associated with use connection with account, including all current and past trusted and authorized iOS device, computers, and any other device access to Apple services, including serial numbers, unique identifiers, advertising identifiers, global unique identifiers, just a bunch of identifiers here. Content of all emails associated with this account, content of all instant messages associated with this account, content of all files and other records stored on iCloud with this account, all activity, connection, transactional logs with the account, all records and information regarding locations of the account was assessed, all records pertaining to type of services used, all records pertaining to communications between Apple and any person regarding the account, located in and the following premises owned, maintained, and controlled and operated by Apple. And so that's the first one. The next one, this is the next one. This is the same information. You don't figure out, which device they're referring to until you get to page 80. And in page 80, you're looking at last four of 1278. I'm sorry, page 77. 78. It's 1278. And on page 80 is where it says 1278 is Kernodle's account. Right? Same stuff with the other one. And then page 94 is where it talks about the third one. And we'll fast forward because it's all the same stuff. Same exact stuff. Except this one's for 1841. Page 1841 is referred to Chapin account. So this is Ethan Chapin. Now, the crazy thing about this is it stops with the phones. Now it goes into AT&T mobility. It talks about phone plans. It talks about a bunch of other stuff. And in fact, I believe like this first part is, referencing Kohberger's, phone. And so very highly redacted. Where's Kaylee's phone? Where's Kaylee's phone? I went through majority of this. I skimmed through a lot. I'm not going to deny that. But I went through majority of it, whatever it seemed to be different. And we found a lot of things. One thing we didn't find was Kaylee's phone. Did Bryan Kohberger take Kaylee's phone with him? It's interesting, right? It's interesting. So here's my little theory on what I think may have occurred here. I'm assuming, or I'm thinking that Bryan Kohberger met Kaylee Goncalves online on Tinder, right? I think they did go on a date, and I think that that's the guy who disrespected her. I feel that perhaps maybe he also, it's a small town, it's not that big, maybe he also matched with Madison and attempted to talk to Madison. Now I feel that maybe perhaps Madison and Kaylee being so close, she shared her experience with Madison about Kohberger, and she chose not to go on a date with the guy. And he was persistent, and he was mad, not only because of the fact that it didn't work out with Kaylee, but then Kaylee prevented things to move forward with Madison. And in his mind, this is all in his mind, not saying that this is anything true, but in his mind, and this is all allegedly, again, this is a theory of mine that I'm coming up with. My assumption is he became upset with Kaylee about that. Now, the fact that the phone is missing, and the fact that it's been described that Kaylee had significantly more injuries than the other victims here, leads me to believe maybe he was angry at her, and he took the phone because there was some sort of evidence of contact between him and Kaylee on that phone. I think this is definitely turning into a lot of strong evidence. I've talked about how I thought the evidence was weak prior to, but those communications and that data there, I think that's huge. I think this is a big part. Now it talks about the K-bar, and it talks about looking at and applying for search warrants at a bunch of different places, so that way they can see if anybody made a transaction for a K-bar. But for the most part, it didn't see anything about them finding anything. Now you can kind of put two and two together when they put that the first warrant on there was for Amazon, and then they also had the Amazon Fire Stick from Kohberger's apartment complex. So you put two and two together, you would kind of think maybe perhaps they have something there, maybe a receipt of a transaction there where he purchased the K-bar. they we talked last night with Bryan from the channel called The Opinionated Idiot, and we're talking about as far as, if he took his phone and it was on airplane mode, right? And people ask, why does he take his phone? Why did he take his phone and turn it on? Maybe perhaps he's trying to take some pictures, and he was going to use his phone to take those pictures, so he just put it on airplane mode. But my biggest things are, all right, so Kaylee went on a date with somebody that disrespected her. Within 2 weeks of that happening, she and her friends are they've passed away. Their lives were taken by somebody, and allegedly Bryan Kohberger. You have Kohberger and these two girls both having Tinder accounts. Now, from the outside of it, doesn't mean anything, right? How many people have Tinder accounts? But the fact that that aspect is in this document here, and in this, in this amongst these 769 pages, I think that means that that's important. And if that's important, that means that it's probably because they were in some sort of communication through there, right? So you have that. You have the phone that's missing, and it being Kaylee's. And like I said, that's probably and possibly a reason why they thought early on in this investigation that this was targeted. You have one person that has more injuries than other. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were targeted. You have one phone missing from the others. That doesn't necessarily mean they're targeted. But when you put both of those two things together, there's one person that has significant injuries, and that person's also missing their phone amongst the other folks. That leads me to believe that more than likely that's your targeted person. Now, why would they be targeted is the question. Is it because of, in my opinion, both of these girls were on Tinder? Perhaps, maybe, Bryan did have that that dinner and did disrespect Kaylee, and that got back to Maddie, and she also didn't want to have anything to do with Kohberger, and Kohberger may have blamed, Kaylee wrongly. Of course, it was his fault. Like I said before, I think they got the right guy. I think they've been on him for a while. A lot of people were asking as well, where did the Kohberger name come up? How did they point the direction to him? Well, I think it's from, the social media scrubbing that the police department did. I think his name came up often. His profile came up often in messages and whatnot. And so I think they were on to him early. They looked at that. They're like, hey, you got a guy who has, he's messaging these girls. He may have went on a date with one of them, disrespected that one, attempted to talk to the others. He apparently drives a white Elantra. The white Elantra seen in the area. All right, let's check his phone. Hey, his phone was off during the time of the commission of the crime, but he was out and about, and he was up and around, and he wasn't too far away. He wasn't home, but he wasn't too far away from Moscow. Once his phone turned on, once you start putting all those pieces together, it does make for a very strong case. I think Bryan Kohberger is going to have a hill to climb. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that notification bell. Remember, this type of content usually gets monetized just because of the fact that, some of the words that we use and the type of content that is not very ad friendly. And so when that happens, it typically does limit the reach of people that it goes out to. So let's help get this out by liking it, ringing that notification bell. I'd encourage you guys to hit the join button and becoming a member. We have a lot of member perks, including member chats, member lives, things like that. So that was my phone, and that might make you to get out of here. Hit that like button, ring that bell. We'll see you guys on Monday if there's no more breaking news. Peace out, y'all.